please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Welcome back. The midcap index has slipped a tad bit. So there was that bounce which took place in the midcap index, and that seems to have come off a tad bit. There you can see on your screen stocks which are under pressure. Idea has now slipped to a fresh 52-week low, 45 rupees level on that. McDowell's too is under pressure. Perhaps it's the same logic as United Spirits, where higher ethanol prices could hurt, the business of the liquor business per se. And McDowell, the other one. Not this one. McDowell should be up for your screen. That slipped close to about 1.5%. Other than that, you've also got weakness in an Apollo Tyres, a Motherson Sumi. So a couple of these auto ancillaries too are under pressure. The rupee too has erased some of the recovery. So the intraday of rupee as well will be up for your screen. The record low level in the rupee was 72.91. Thereafter, there was a bit of a pullback which took place. It went to levels of, I think, 72.65, somewhere around that.
20 paise from the lows.
There was about a 20-30 paise intraday recovery, and that too seems to have sold into, as you can see, a sharp fall coming through in the rupee, and that's coinciding with what you can see at the equity market level as well. So the Nifty is now dipped into the red, and the mid-cap index is down close to about 1%. Let's get you some market opinion to get a sense of what the experts are saying about the road ahead. We had spoken to Manish Sonthalia of Motilal Oswal earlier today, who said that the market is at a great level to buy if you are a long-term investor.
The amount of fall that you're seeing in the mid and the small caps is more a case of panic setting in retail HNI investors, and we know that the fundamentals are quite supportive of the valuations even at these levels, or maybe even at lower levels. I would tend to believe that if you're slightly longish term investors, these are great levels to buy. Whenever we have these sort of sentiments, I mean, sooner or later the market would tend to bottom. And of course, all this panic is coming at the back of the rupee fall. Of course, overvaluation or undervaluation is a debatable point on the rupee given the long-term real effective exchange rates. But sentimentally, of course, emerging market currencies are down. So can we see some more fall? Maybe you can. There will be a shift out of consumption names if the investment theme starts to pick up. The whole point is that the investment capex cycle has not picked up for quite some time, and that is why these good stories, great businesses would tend to have slightly longish or overvaluation for the near term. I think a serious shift of money out of consumption will happen due to near-term valuation concerns. Will happen only when your capex cycle will be there. I think at 250 odd levels, of course there is some shrinkage in marketing margin for OMCs at these levels, but these offer great value. There can be no doubt. Why was one to have these sort of policies in place? And that has impacted the sentiments on the PSU companies even more. So from that point of view, if you were to just take that element out, there's great value in the OMCs and many other PSU names.
Well, if the bond yields are going to move higher, then some of these NBFCs are going to get hurt, and because their borrowing cost will go up as well. And you take a look at the Nifty Bank, that's down close to around 200 points. But just take a look at some of the biggest losers as we speak. Bajaj Finance is now down close to around 2.8%, and majority of that fall has come in the last few minutes. We saw the rupee slip. The bond yields as well are sitting comfortably above that 8.15%, 8.2% odd. So it's not looking great. And the Nifty has been tracking both these two very, very closely. You're actually 3 points. One, Brent crude prices moved towards $80. That's point number one. Point number two is that the bond yields continue to move high and continue to move towards that 8.2, 8.25 odd mark. And in fact, you need to keep an eye out on the rupee as well, because that's looking any kind of pullback is getting sold into. In fact, even in today's trading session, as Rima mentioned, we saw a bit of a pullback, and now it's headed back towards the 73 odd mark. So not a pretty looking screen out there. But how do you trade the Nifty? I mean, is a short trade worth it even at this point of time after more than a 400-point correction from the recent peak? We have Ashwini Gujral and Sandeep Wagle, both of them who are with us. Ashwini, what would the trade be? Would you be brave enough to buy into the Nifty at these levels? The Nifty Bank is down 200 points as well. Is that a buying opportunity, or do you think it's downhill from here for the next couple of hours till the time we wind up today?
See, it's clear that, the bounces are fairly shallow. And And if 11,250 was such a strong support, the bounce should have been better. Now the issue is that the bounce has failed and the bank nifty is almost breaking today's low, so is the nifty. So, I would be surprised if we get a, close which is very similar to yesterday, because the market is now clearly in a strong momentum where it wants to expand on the downside. And we keep looking at rupee and this and that. I think it's not about what the rupee is doing right now, but what the entire scenario means for the market in the next couple of months. So, all of this rates going up, crude prices going up, etc., overall has a huge macro impact, and the impact of that or the effect of that is likely to stay for a while. So, we often get excited with a 20 paise move on rupee. I don't think things are quite as simple, and I think we are looking for another bloodbath going into the close. Having said that, HDFC Bank sometimes does well on expiry days. You could try to buy that around with a stop of about 1980, target of 2060. Colgate Palmolive is a buy with a stop of 1080, target of 1160. And BPCL is a sell with a stop of 332, target of 318.
Okay. Ashwini, any thoughts on M&M? It's now below its 50-day moving average as well. Is it headed significantly lower? It's seen a sharp correction on the back of fundamental news today.
It would have gone down below 50 DMA anyway.
Okay.
So this is not a market where things are moving because of stock-specific news. Let's get that out of the way. It's a strong stock relatively, but my sense is you could go get up to 850, 860 before it turns.
Okay, all right. Thanks so much for that, Ashwini. Well, just keep an eye out on the index as we speak. It's slipping, and it's slipping very, very quickly. Hero MotoCorp as well is taking a bit of a leg down. Only Infosys actually is holding one end up now, because that stock is the only one that's really gaining in the last few minutes or so. TCS and Infosys, they're trying to hold on to some green. If it wasn't for that, then in fact, we can slip very, very rapidly. Now we're moving towards 11,250 odd mark. So it's broad-based selling. Bajaj Finance, Bharti Airtel, Hero MotoCorp, Bajaj Finserv, a whole host of them, all of them getting sold off into. And in fact, United Spirits, we had a Credit Suisse note that came in earlier today that Sonal was telling us about. They were telling us because, the input cost is going to go up, it won't be great news for their margins. The stock was holding actually more or less flattish in the last few minutes from the highs of the day. That stock has suddenly seen some selling pressure. Now it's moved to the low point of the day as we speak. Sandeep Agle as well is with us. Sandeep, your take on the index, as well as you have some trading ideas for us?
Afternoon, Nigel. I think this is a very clear sell on a rallies or a sell on a bounce market, and I don't think Nifty will hold. I see at least a 70-80 point move on the downside by end of the day that can probably even extend to maybe 100 points or so on the Nifty. 11,200, 220 is where I see the Nifty coming to, or maybe even 180 or so. Stock specific, I would go with a sell in a Allahabad Bank, stop loss of 41, target of 36, and a sell in a Reliance Capital that showed strength in the morning, but that is not sustaining, and now it is broken below a strong support of 415. So I would sell it with a stop loss of 419 for a target of 390.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much for that. Let's get the early rates up from the European market. They were expected to open slightly higher in trade. This is despite weakness that came through in the Asian markets. Remember, Hang Seng, the Chinese markets were all under pressure. On news that China has requested permission from the WTO, World Trade Organization, to sanction the United States. So despite lingering trade concerns, fears of escalation of a trade war between US and China, the European markets, at least today, have opened up on the flatter side. Let's move on. The HDFC Standard Life Board meet is scheduled for today, in which the board members will consider the appointment of the new MD and CEO of the company following the exit of Amitabh Chaudhary as the company's MD and CEO. Yash Jain is here to tell us more. Yash?
Well, Rima, as you rightly pointed out, the board of HDFC Life would meet today sometime in the afternoon to decide on the name of the next managing director and CEO. This, of course, follows Amitabh Chaudhary's exit to head Axis Bank for the next 3 years. Now, all indications which we are getting from our sources in the industry as well as in the company is that the new managing director and CEO for HDFC Life is likely to be an internal candidate, as there has been no interview process, no selection process which the company has conducted, and this internal candidate mostly is going to be Vibha Padalkar. Remember, Vibha Padalkar currently is the ED and CFO of HDFC Life, and she is likely to be elevated as the managing director and CEO. Also, what sources tell us is that HDFC Life for an interim period would let Vibha handle both portfolios, which is managing director and CEO, as well as the CFO's position. And later on, once she settles in the new role, the company would again look out for a new CFO for HDFC Life.
Completes 25 years of listing today, and the management is quite hopeful of achieving their 2020 goals. The management spoke to us earlier. Let's hear out what they had to tell us and what's the growth outlook going ahead.
I think one of the biggest things that we are very grateful for is that our investors are very well attuned to the fact that it's not a top-line growth company. It's actually cash in the bank, or what we said, the ability to have a visual identification for the top line and bottom line. My investors would be very, very happy to see that we may not have hit bang on 18 billion, but we definitely have met our bottom line targets. So it's all about a combination of these two things. If it was only top line, believe me, it's relatively very easy in these turbulent times. It's very easy to go and pick up companies just for the top line. I think where the pain is that the governments, the car makers, the people in general are trying to figure out what is the real thing which is going to pass them that particular benefit of cleaner fuels or cleaner air or whatever is the conditions over there. What we are trying to tell Motherson people is that you have to be on your toes, you have to be very quick to respond, very quick to change, very quick to be able to take advantage of the trends and the things that are coming in the coming times.
I think the next 10 years are going to be super exciting with all the changes and things that are happening in the automotive industry. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for us at Motherson. But we at Motherson focus on our 5-year goals. So we are quite focused on the 2020 target at the moment. As you can imagine, we still have a little way to go. And all the teams are quite focused on making sure that we can deliver that target for 2020. So once we get close to that 2020 target, we will set the next 5-year plan for 2025, and hopefully that will give you a good color as to where we want to go in that 5-year period. We will come out with the next 5-year plan, but at least till 2020 we want to maintain this dividend ratio payout. We've said that we are going to introduce Motherson into new sectors out of automotive as well, so we will need investments for that, and I think we will plan all of that out. But till 2020, I think all the dividend payout ratios and our goals are very, very clearly slated for us and for the entire team, and we'll focus on that till 2020. And then I think, you know, from the 2020 to 2025 period, we'll discuss, see what's required, and come back to the market with something that's exciting. And of course, will not be short on growth either, because Motherson is a growth focused company, and I believe that the next 5-year period as well, we want to show a lot of growth.
Let's shift our focus now. Earlier, our colleague Yash Jain caught up with D. Rajkumar, the CMD of BPCL, began by asking him about the GRMs we can expect to see going ahead, keeping in mind the rise in crude oil prices, crude prices pretty much knocking on the door of $80 per barrel. The rupee has depreciated a fair amount. So keeping in mind all these factors, listen into what the management had to say.
Last year we did about 6.85 and this quarter is 7.49. It will be difficult for us to talk about the second quarter and for the year, and it will be only hazarding a guess, so I don't think I'll be able to give you a number, but we can only talk about, you know, what happened in the last quarter, which is 7.49, and we have done well both at the Mumbai refinery as well as at the Kochi refinery.
But would it be a realistic target to at least have GRMs of more than $7 a barrel going forward?
we are hoping that we should be able to achieve that kind of a number. And we are expecting that as far as Kochi refinery is concerned, the GRM should improve basically because we have just completed the integrated refinery expansion project, which has taken the Nielsen index complexity index to a larger number. It's about 10.4 now. So with that, I think we should be looking at improving our GRMs there.
What kind of pressure do you see coming from the depreciating rupee and the crude prices going forward? How do you see these two factors impacting your margins?
I think you can already see that the fuel prices are going up at the RSP level. Now, any $1 increase in crude prices per barrel is going to result in something like 45 paisa at the ESPP level, that is the storage point level, and 1 rupee depreciation would result in something like 54 paisa impact on the oil prices, petrol and diesel prices. Now, this is the kind of impact that we see. Now, as far as our margins are concerned, the margins are to a large extent it is fixed. We are talking about something like at the gross margin level, something like 2 rupees per litre that we are talking about. So that stays there. But of course, the impact is on our containing our operating cost, everything within this the GRM, within the gross margin that is available to us.
Any indication from the government with respect to absorbing some of the future price hikes which the company would be taking, looking at the crude trajectory?
I wish to confirm that there is no pressure, there is no communication or rather expectation that we should be absorbing the price increase or price hike at this point in time.
Okay. Speaking about the issue of import of Iranian crude, of course, as a part of the 2+2 dialogue between India and US also, there was a request which came from US essentially asking India to reduce the Iranian import of crude and taking it to zero. How do you think a company like BPCL would really tackle that issue and manage its imports from Iran?
As far as sanctions on Iran is concerned, you know that the winding period is there till 4th of November and till September. So, we are importing to the tune of 3.08 million metric tons out of 4.25 million metric tons that we were planning to import from Iran. So, which is approximately 75%. This 75% we are importing, we would have imported in about 6 months' time. Now the balance is again, even in that 4.25, 2 million metric ton was basically an optional quantity as far as BPCL is concerned. Right. Now we would have gone ahead and then imported probably another 0.56 million metric tons only. So as far as again BPCL is concerned, this 0.56 million metric ton, there are other sources which we can look to import from. And parallelly, government is also engaging with the US, Indian government is also engaging with the US government to try and see that there is some kind of a relaxation that is provided to India. So we are hoping that if something like that happens, then possibly we'll continue with our imports at probably the reduced levels.